France-KLM Group has announced losses of over €7 billion because of the COVID-19 crisis. The Franco-Dutch company reduced its workforce by 8,700 full-time positions last year. It also announced plans to cut a further 6,000 full-time positions in the years to come. France and the Netherlands have provided the company with an unprecedented bailout of €10 billion funded by the taxpayer. Nicholas Hurst is the chief correspondent for EU competition at MLEX, a market insight and analysis organisation. Well, we can go now to speak to him in Brussels. Thank you very much for your time. It's a huge sum, over €7 billion to lose last year. Is Air France-KLM too big to fail? What does this mean, do you think, for the future of the company?
Yeah, I think clearly so far the European governments have taken the position that, yes, the big flag carriers are too big to fail. They're essential for the connectivity, or take the case of Air France-KLM, within France, within the Netherlands, for passengers, for cargo, travelling to other countries. So the governments are committed to do whatever it takes to help them through the crisis, that's for sure.
How fair do you think the distribution has been of public money to air companies?
It's a really fraught question. Basically, we've seen billions and billions of euros of loans, grants, and cash handed out to airlines across Europe. Of course, this hasn't been distributed like for like in an equal fashion. So you have a situation at the moment where a huge airline, very important airline like Lufthansa, has received a cash injection of €6 billion from the German government, and you have perhaps its main competitor, Ryanair, which presents itself as Europe's biggest airline and undoubtedly does an extremely important job in connecting the continent, which has received very, very little state aid. It's just drawn out some loans that are available to all companies. But obviously there's a huge distortion of competition that's created by that situation. And that's where the Commission comes in and tries to address the balance by imposing some conditions. Now, Ryanair, of course, has been taking this to courts and fighting this very hard.
Yeah, the CEO of Ryanair has voiced some of those concerns on this programme. The French government have attached some sort of green conditions to the bailout money. Do you think that's the way forward? That's part of the conditions to say we'll give you this help, but you've got to do X, Y, Z first?
But I think that inevitably that ends up distorting competition even more, because Air France has, with the last bailout it received from the French government, committed to phase out flights on routes that could be done by TGV trains within France, to have the cleanest fleet in Europe by the mid-2020s. Now, obviously, these are conditions that are not imposed on Ryanair. But also they're not imposed on Lufthansa, which has also received a huge bailout. So we really need a coordinated European response to this, something that the Commission has tried to do. It's doing its best to do so far. And the focus now is really on what's going to happen with the next stage of Air France-KLM's bailout, because the figures that we saw today make it desperately clear the company is going to need more state support, and the negotiations are currently going on between Brussels and Paris over what the exact conditions should be for it to receive that.